Michael Mathis on didgeridoo. I knew his name was Michael, but I didn't know it was Mathis. He did it at my equinox, and it was incredible. And so just let it take you to another place. He'll be doing that for about 10 minutes, and then Jack will come in. So just sit back. You can always lay down on the pews if you want to. You know, make yourself comfortable so you can, like, leave your body. Okay, here we go.
Good evening, everyone. On Sunday, I mentioned that I had a great week that last week, going to the kickoff speech by Robert Kennedy Jr. in his bid for the presidency of 2024. Beautiful, wonderful, interesting time, and I met a lot of interesting people, including the head of security at that event, who owns a private jet, a huge private jet. And we had the opportunity, all of us, Norma, myself, Del, his family, to fly back to Del's house in Austin on this beautiful private jet. We got back to Austin and they had their cars parked at the private airport there. We took the cars to Del's house, and as soon as we walked in the door, we saw that his golden Labrador retriever is not just a normal size. He's really big. I think he's like about 120, 125 pounds. Beautiful, beautiful dog. But he is bleeding from the face profusely. It's all over the floor and his legs. And his face is swollen beyond belief, and his neck is all swollen. So we had this beautiful experience over here, and we come back, we run into this terrible thing, and immediately, I think it was Del's son that said he's been bitten by a snake. And we were looking, and at first you thought, how could it be? His blood all over his legs. That he had a fight with some other dog or some other character. But no, we ran him to the vet immediately. And when we got to the veterinarian's office, we couldn't even in the car stop the bleeding. In the veterinarian's office, the nurse came out and said, oh, that dog's been bitten by a rattlesnake. And she called to the veterinarian who was in the room working on another dog. We got a dog here that's been bitten by a rattlesnake. We got to bring him in. So they rushed him into the inner office, and I let Del go with the dog. Didn't want to be in the way. It looked like it was packed there with another person, another dog. But I couldn't imagine that I was sitting in this lobby of the veterinarian's office, and they had a television playing. And, I'm seeing this everywhere. I'm seeing it in restaurants. There's hardly any place you can go where they don't have TV playing. And for people, I guess, that need to see the sports or the news or whatever there is. But in a veterinarian's office, I said. Anyway, on the television, there was a whole thing about another shooting, somebody shooting a lot of people, and then it just keeps happening. And some person that was sitting there with another, I guess, acquaintance said, when are they going to do something about gun control? And I just sat through all of this. I was really more concerned with what was going to happen with the dog. So about 20 minutes later, Del came out, said they've actually going to have to keep him. They don't know how long yet, but they're going to be doing this anti-venom thing, the venom, to go against the poison that's in him. And then he was really in bad shape. So they're going to have to keep him for a few days because they can't just give the venom, the anti-venom, to the dog. They have to do it in stages because the anti-venom quite often has an allergic reaction in a dog beside what it's doing. So you don't want to see, you didn't want to see the bill. What's funny is like, so we were there for still another, we stayed an hour, we were with the dog, and they said there'll be somebody watching him all night and giving him periodic shots, I guess, of the anti-venom. So the nurse and the one veterinarian said, okay, well, so-and-so, who's the lead guy here, is making up the bill. We're going to keep him for maybe up to 3 days. And so you will have to give a down payment of 100% of the bill. So that was an interesting way to put it. Say, you'll have to give a down payment of 100% of the bill. And the bill was $4,000 and something, really. If it had been my dog, I don't know what I would have done. I couldn't have done anything. I had to put it on a time plan or something. But, so we had to go back to the house, and they would call us in the morning and let us know how he's doing and all that. Anyway, the dog survived. And, over the week or so that we were there, all of the swelling went down. But I want to talk about this whole idea that everywhere you go, you have a television, and now it almost seems like if it's on a news channel, you're listening to someone talking about another shooting somewhere. And of course, the gal that was watching it there said, when are they going to do something about, gun control in this country? I'm not so sure I don't know what they could do. I mean, even if they were passed a policy to do it, there's no way. There's so many guns now. There's more guns than people. I mean, I'm talking about really automatic weapons and things like that. So I always recommend people who are on the spiritual journey and seeking the enlightened life shouldn't spend a lot of time watching television news, because it's simply a confession of the insanity of humanity. All you're watching on the news is the insanity of humanity. Most of the reporting is about people's idea of life, which is the simple, limited, outer, illusionary projections that human beings are involved in. So until you're on the spiritual journey, you're usually simply projecting your idea or beliefs that you've collected in your life. And of course, they don't necessarily match other people's beliefs, and so you have all these conflicts going on, and then it exacerbates, it becomes extraordinary, it's insane, the amount of conflicts that people are involved in everywhere in our world, because you cannot resolve all the conflicts in human experience because you can't figure them out. You can't get to the bottom of it because the conflict is the level of consciousness of separation in which people are carrying on their lives. And the object of the spiritual journey is to get people to withdraw from supporting that illusionary idea of being alive and entering into an alignment with an inner level of awareness from our core being, where we are able to then change the priority of our awareness. Up until the point where we're willing to do that, to begin to do the spiritual practice of releasing our pet perceptions in deference to having peace and harmony, if that becomes more important to us than being right or considered wiser, smarter, richer, bigger than whatever, unless we can shift and allow that core being to relate to us that we are all on a more refined level interconnected. We are all on a more refined level interconnected with this intelligence that gives us life. So, A Course in Miracles speaks to this continually. I'll share this with you. Thinking our way out of the conflicts in the world have to do with some kind of political decisions and policies and the enforcements, and then removing, I don't know, automatic weapons or from the people that have them. That's not going to do it. But here's A Course in Miracles giving us some insight into our reality that we have to begin to allow to take a priority over our limited perception. You can read this in the Course in Miracles text, page 415. That's in the old text. In the new text, it's on page 445. Projection makes perception. The world you see is what you gave it, nothing more than that. But though it is no more than that, it is not less. Therefore, to you it is important. It is the witness to your state of mind, the outside picture of an inward condition. As a person thinketh, so does he perceive. Therefore, seek not to change the world, but choose to change your mind about the world. Perception is a result and not a cause. That's a powerful mind-opening line there. Perception is not a result, but a cause. And we live in the outer-directed, illusion-driven definition of life, allowing ourselves to believe that my perception is generated by what is happening outside of me, that I'm not party to all that's taking place out there. It's simply happening separate and apart from me, and I'm responding in kind because I'm an objective observer of the phenomena I find outside myself. Course in Miracles is attempting to get us to withdraw from that idea and to, by faith, begin to make the priority forgiveness, release, peace, compassion, so that before we're simply reacting to our limited definition of life, which sees us separate and apart from conditions and circumstances. And the only way to begin that journey into the enlightened life is to begin to make your priority forgiveness of what you're looking at. Peace instead of conflict and wanting to be right or thought right. Compassion instead of blame. And so that when we start to do that by faith, we see a shift after doing that. We begin to see a shift in the kinds of things we are looking upon. because all minds are actually on a more refined level in communication. And while some people may be in total denial of that, it doesn't matter, we can still release them and forgive them, and if they're that belligerent and that distorted, we can remove ourselves from their presence. What we want to be doing is creating this new ideal of not reacting to conditions and circumstances, but recognizing that my perception, like a radio station I'm tuning into, I can either tune into that old station of separation, or I can tune it higher to another station, which is of the recognition all minds are in communication. And the best thing I can be doing, not only for myself, but for all others, is to be mindful of sharing peace, mindful of forgiveness and release of that which looks to me to be some kind of confrontation. And in doing that enough, we begin to recognize how our circumstances shift. We don't have so many belligerent, angry people in our experience. And we may find it so true if our work seems to include people that are not exactly conscious enough to be kind or considerate. You will see that change too, or you may find yourself in another profession or another job somewhere, because the consciousness one is giving priority to actually wills out over all other conditions. You will become in that enlightened awareness that you seek, so that nothing in the outer directed illusion-driven world will have sway over the way you feel and the way you act and the way you are. That's what this is all about, the spiritual journey. So this truth is reiterated throughout A Course in Miracles, and it's reiterated throughout the teachings of those that have taken to task their own awareness. They have taken to task their own awareness and said, you know, I'm going to give this some practice, some spiritual practice. And in doing that, they have found their way into a more refined level. They've tuned their consciousness higher and have found themselves on a more refined, harmonious level, meeting people in the end that are also extremely conscious and aware and pursuing peace themselves. I can give, personal credence to this whole thing, because I can look back at my life and see where I was in consciousness when there wasn't anybody around me that was even marginally awake. And there was nothing but anger and vengeance and poverty and hatred that occurred on the streets where I grew up. And it was about fighting and stealing and getting what you could possibly get. And stealing was given the okay if you got away with it. So I learned all the wrong things at a very early age, and ultimately found myself escaping from the police under a hail of bullets. But I can look back at even my early youth, growing through that, and my acquaintances as I got older, and the consciousness in which I found myself. And then as I began to make the shift, because I had to change my name and change my life, and I met a whole new group of people while I was on the run. I had to change my name and carry on with people that were in theater, and they were more highly motivated intelligent. They still had their foibles and all of that, but it was still a better level. But each level of consciousness I can look back at, I can see how my surroundings changed accordingly until I found my way to becoming a minister. So I can testify personally to the idea that consciousness wills out. And it's about making that decision to make your priority this higher level of awareness. I have a long-time friend. This, people think this takes years and years of meditation for you to get to this place where you are living above the thinking of the world and above the attitudes and emotions and conflicts of the world. It doesn't take years and years of meditation. It takes determination to be awake while you're living. In other words, not just enough to have a daily meditation, you have to carry the ideal with you so that you finally are not being thrown off your ideal every time something occurs. You're able to pause, and you take a holy pause, and you say, no, I could choose peace here. I could choose release, forgiveness, letting go. I could do this. And when you're able to do it more and more, you'll see the beautiful benefits of it. But I had a friend who I introduced to Unity here way back when we were in the small church on Pearl Street. And he wasn't necessarily seeking, the truth or unity or anything like that. But occasionally I would have tea with him. He wouldn't come to the church very often. I would have tea with him, and I tried to get him to take another look at different things. But he said, no. He said, life's just what it is. He said, he'd been around a while. He's like in his mid to late 50s. And right at that time, he was having a real problem because he lived in a trailer park in Fort Collins. And there was a playground next to him. Not next to him, but close enough where he had the children playing in that playground or that play yard in that school, and it was really disturbing to him. He was really upset and angry by it. But he eventually was getting into what I was saying to him, and he was trying to get into the spiritual path, and he decided, well, you can't do it in society. So he went to an ashram in California. I guess he wrote a letter or somehow connected with them. They invited him out to join their spiritual group, and it was mainly only men in this ashram where he went to find stillness and peace and do his spiritual work. As a matter of fact, they had a great endowment. This, by the way, has been an idea I wanted to use for a movie, if I ever get around to writing movies. But that whole group, they had enough of endowment to have their own personal cook who cooked fabulous meals for them. These guys weren't living on rice and water. They're sumptuous meals. But when he first got there, they did have meditation, and they built a really beautiful meditation room, a round, beautiful meditation room. But you couldn't really meditate well, not he couldn't, because there were owls that got into the roof of that meditation room. And all there was a lot of scratching and noise and hooting and carrying on, and so that didn't work. And the other thing they did, because he was the newcomer, their belief was that they had this guru, and they had a picture of this guru on this altar in this meditation, and he would have to take a plate of food and place it down. I am going to write this movie. Place it down before this guru. It's a picture. And they'd all pray to this guru, and of course the the guru was never any really hungry. Then some hours later, he'd have to take the plate of food away. And but he did have a life-transforming experience, which he moved back to Boulder, okay, not Boulder, but Fort Collins. And when he was in the airport on the way back, he saw an area where they had a drought somewhere in Africa or somewhere, and they were showing pictures of the desperation of these people. And one of the things the person doing the narration for this said was, these children are too weak to even play. And I guess that struck a chord in him. So when he went back and he took his trailer back in the trailer park, and he was a completely changed human being. He had just had gratitude for all the miracles that he had in his life. And the children playing in the schoolyard had no effect on him after that, because he knew how beautiful it was that children could be at play. And of course, his heart was open because he had this feeling for those children that were too weak from hunger and desperation to play. So his transformation took place in a matter of, I don't know, 3 months. Went to the ashram, got fed up there, decided to leave, and then had this television program play in the airport. And suddenly, he realized what life was really all about. It's all about consideration and caring and forgiveness and love. So that is also our calling. And we don't have to watch a lot of desperation on television to get there. In fact, we should try to avoid the television as much as we can when it comes to the news. There are some wonderful movies and things you can watch, but the news is a confession of human insanity because they are trying to do something from a level in which it can't be done. And there has to be a change within for there to come the priority of looking beyond the foibles that appear to you outside and bestowing peace, even so, and bestowing forgiveness, and bestowing compassion. And that's the spiritual journey. It's not the surface New Age journey that you may hear a lot about in Boulder, which is mind over matter. You're going to use your mind to make the universe provide the material well-being and goods that you need to be rich and happy and popular. You can try that if you want. I will let you know up front. It will be futile in bringing you into the joy, the insight, the love, and the peace that you're really seeking. We're going to practice now again. And in order to get into the meditation that we're going to share, we just listen to the didgeridoo and the drum for a while. Let yourself relax and be okay with yourself sitting here. And when we feel comfortable, I will give you an affirmation to use to give some focus to your mind. is love. Love is life. I am God's life. I am. God is love. Love is life, true life. I am God's life. I am. I am. God is love. Love is life, true life. I am God's life. I am. I am. Breathing in the I, breathing out the am, joining the universe. God is love. Love is life. True life. I am God's life. I am. I am. I am. Breathing in the I, breathing out the am. I am. In this refined level of awareness, we will offer the names of those that have been submitted to our prayer list. As Norma calls the name, you can just let this feeling of oneness, this feeling of love, go out to that name.
Faye Russell, Michelle Paulson, Brittany Hall, Armando Flores, Olivia and her dog, Pastor Derek, United Nations, the White House, ACLU, Children's Hospitals, Jerusalem, Wayne Bartlett, Ramiro, the Ukraine, the marginalized, Veronica, Michael Castro, Ben King, Darren Hamlin, Amanda Walsh, Kyle Bayer, Mick Hearn, Brett Hearn, Tony Bertram, Tracy Morrell, Gary Backlund, Carrie, Zolita Grant, Ringo the Fox Terrier, Christine and Janine, Taryn DeSico, Wouter Verhagen, Jeremy and Carmine, Tyler Brown, Naomi Malik, Joanna, Anna, Brother Martin, Elizabeth Burr, Hannah, Krista Williams and family, Carl Engler, Leipzig, Michigan, Jax, Victoria, Spencer, Frank, Alexandria McRae, Elizabeth McRae, Sue, Petra, Eris, Dara, Lewis, Jack, Big Boy the Cat, Rita Anderson, Veronica Woods, Celia, Jessica, Erika, Abby Beltram, Kate Beltrami, Jude, Abby Beltrami, Kate, Jules, Maria Williams, Joyce and Tom Gooding, Marche, Heather, Samita, Tyler Brown, Richard and Robin, Sadie and Joel, our children, people of Ukraine. You can call out a name if you would like to do so at this time. The soul of Beverly Murphy. We see this healing light surrounding the prayer box. And all the people's names that have been submitted, we see them healed, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Let us take a moment to embrace the vision of a new earth. Let us see all of those people sharing this Boulder community with us, coming to the realization of their divine nature expressing it in forgiveness, love, compassion, and peace. And this awareness spreading to everyone, sharing the state of Colorado with us. And it continuing to expand in the consciousness of everyone sharing these United States of America with us. And this awareness, this vision, moving into the minds, the hearts, and souls of everyone in every nation, on every continent, throughout the world, coming to the realization of the presence of God as the guiding love in life, and this bringing harmony and healing to the planet, to all the creatures sharing this planet. As we pray, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and God is love. Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. And I understand that we actually put up a screen that they can see on live stream. Those that are watching it live stream can tithe in that way. Everyone here can bring into their hands that gift they'd like to make to Unity of Boulder. And as we do that, let's bless this tithe, this gift, with this offering prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is.
Why have you come to earth? Do you remember? Why have you taken birth? Why have you come? To love, serve, and remember. To love, serve, and remember. To love, serve, and remember. Love, 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 love.
Join me now, please. We dedicate this tithe to the will and the work of the Spirit of truth, the Spirit available to each of us, the Spirit that joins all of us. We dedicate this tithe to the victory of the Spirit of truth. Amen. Sunday, I will speak directly to the floor in A Course in Miracles because someone has recognized it and let me know. So that whole talk will be about the flaw in A Course in Miracles. And the second service next week will be conducted by Santisha, who will be back in the pulpit. Do we have any announcements other than that?
Sacred Feminine is meeting tomorrow in the bookstore area at 12 noon, so all women are invited. We get to share our different remedies that we have used throughout the years, our knowledge of meditation, our enlightened, relationships. We try to learn something each time we get together, and it's all a sharing experience because so many people that come have such wisdom to share. So it's not just me saying things, it's just wonderful wisdom in the group. That's at 12 noon.
We have tea and cookies for those of you who'd like to stay and
And the
chat.
bookstore, is that open?
Yeah, the bookstore is open. Through these doors to your left, if you want to stay, peruse the books in the bookstore.
And we thank Michael, he was amazing.
Yes, he was.
We'll have to do this more often.
Okay, yeah. Great on the didgeridoo. Okay. So to everyone, have a good night.